you know. And it also talks about issues such as menstrual hygiene and addressing menstrual poverty. And then there's also the issue of assisted reproduction that nobody wants to talk about. Surrogacy and IVF and all that is privatized currently in the country. So while it is available, one round of IVF can cost up to $5,000. That's out of reach to the common Kenyan. If we talk about surrogacy, there's a lot of legal and ethical issues that come out of that because there's no solid law guiding us, and what we have is case law, and it's actually quite mind-blowing because what it says, the courts are saying that if you take my egg and you take my partner's sperm and you put it together into a surrogate, then that child will belong to the surrogate until a time where me as the biological mother and my partner as the biological father adopt that child. You know, that's a bit crazy if you think about it. And we all know how long cases draw out in court in this country. So it will take maybe 2-3 years before you get your adoption processed, right? And then can you imagine a social worker coming into your house to see if you're fit enough to be the parent of your own child? So there's a lot of issues around that, and we have to address them and start fighting the stigma around SRHR.
And I absolutely love the conversation in terms of just unraveling the wide spectrum of this conversation, right? Because every time people hear SRHR, they go to abortion.
Right.
Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think people are not getting a little bit deeper in this conversation and are focusing on that one area? Do you think that it is deliberate to draw attention away from the wide spectrum of SRHR? Or is it just that people are, misinformed? Or what do you think it is?
That's exactly what it is, David. So there's critics of SRHR, of course, and we call them the opposition. I'm not going to go into names, but the opposition uses misinformation and uses the internet as their playground. So you will find them coming up and terming. So the Susan Kihika's bill, the Reproductive Health Bill 2019, was termed an abortion bill, right? So once you read an abortion bill, it takes away from the true essence, and that's what misinformation is all about, diverting attention from the true essence of it. And it all goes back to patriarchy. It's all about control. We trust women in public offices. Right now, we have how many governors? We trust women to hold budgets, whether it's in the home, whether it's in parliament, whether it's in corporate world. We trust women to drive cars. We trust women to do every other thing except make choices concerning their reproductive health.
I mean, it's profound. It's powerful when you speak to it that way. And also when you mention a patriarchal society, I don't know how long we're going to be having these conversations. Your mom has probably been, having the same conversations then.
Some of the same
and we're
battles,
praying that our little girls don't have to fight for space and to fight for a way to speak up and say the things that they want to say. We've got a gentleman in the room. We can't avoid this area without bringing you in. And all the other guys that may be listening in right now. We're raising sons. We've got fathers. And as you said, we trust women in certain areas, all right? But it's still a man's world. The question is, Steffi, where do men come in? Where do men come in? They may not even realize the significance of the role that they play. We have so much to do, but we cannot do it alone.
Yeah. Absolutely. We need men as our allies. When we get pregnant, we didn't get pregnant
alone.
Through
It's like I walked across the street and I'm like, wait, what happened?
But they remove themselves from the conversation all the time.
That's it. And so we definitely need men as allies. And there's a couple of them who are speaking out on these issues. If I have an unsafe abortion, and I bleed out to death, for example, and you're my partner and we have children, then you have to step up and be the mother and father of those children. So you see how it's interconnected. Maybe you don't have the uterus, right? But the consequences of unfriendly sexual and reproductive health environment will affect you. Right? So if we talk about HIV, for example, you talk about infected and affected, right? So infected, let's say that I have HIV. I am infected, but the people around me, my child, my family, my brother, they are affected. They have to take me to the hospital. They have to ensure that I'm taking my pills. So it's the same thing with SRHR, where they say happy wife, happy life. So if you take care of me and you take care of my sexual and reproductive health, then you take care of your family, you take care of your partner, you take care of your children. When we're talking about family planning, I'm planning this family with my partner. I'm not planning it by myself. You find a lot of women who are even scared to talk to their partners about contraception, right? There's a lot of myths and misconceptions around that. You find a lot of women who are talking about assisted reproduction, and maybe they went to the doctor and they were told, you're fine, you're able to reproduce. So it means that the partner, the man, is the one with a bit of a problem. But because of the patriarchal nature of our society, you sit in silence and you suffer in silence. But if the men came along with us and were allies, it's not a big deal. We go to the doctor, we get the help, and we
handle it together.
We handle it together.
Because at the end of the day, when you're getting into a relationship with your partner, the relationship was not based on it's one person and one person alone. My work is just to say, good job, right?
Yeah.
It's two people making decisions together and building a life together. The together word doesn't fly out of the window when it comes to things like this and difficult conversations like these.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and something that for me is really big in my mind is maternal health. Because that's a very, very big one. And you see very horrible statistics of the amount of women who pass on even when giving birth. And that's something that people rarely even consider is part of this conversation. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it's quite devastating, and nobody should die while giving life. When we talk about maternal health, the if we talk about, let's say, safe abortion, which also falls under maternal health, we have about 7 women and girls dying every single day because of complications arising from unsafe abortion, meaning they are going to quacks, they are drinking bleach, they're using hangers to perforate their uteruses, and so on and so forth. So at the very least, we have at least 7 women and girls dying from complications arising from unsafe abortion. That is a preventable death. If we look back to our moms and our grandmothers, or our great-grandmothers, they went to the fields and they gave birth and they moved along, right? And now we have technology advancement.